Welcome! In this video we will look at list views on forms with the PowerBasic Windows Compiler. In our previous video we looked at a small program that would interrogate data we'd prepared in earlier videos. This program would effectively read our large data file, which contains a list of names, addresses, telephone numbers, eye colours and blood groups. The program would then interrogate that data and display a pie chart. So from our dialog we can pick a eye colour, search the text file and produce a pie chart. What we're going to do today is add a list box to this dialog. So to do that we need to go into the form designer. And all we're going to do in this one is there is a list view control, which if we double click on it and drag it onto the area of the screen we want, this is going to display a basic grid on screen, which we can define the columns and add rows based on our search condition. So we'll just nip into the properties window and we will call this control LV data grid and OK it. Now you'll see from in here there are a number of different styles of this particular list view. We're going to stick with the report style, which is ideal, and we'll leave everything else just as the basic. So if we save that and go back to our code, we will find if we go to the dialog, it has indeed added a data grid down at the bottom. Now, how do we actually control that data grid? Well, since this is a list view, after the PB Forms section has completed, everything after that we've got full control of. We're going to, in here, put in a new command called list view. List view, as you will see from the help file, has a large number of statements you can use to control and manipulate a list view. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to add a column to that list view, and we use the insert column command, which we will find down here. There's an insert column command. We'll just copy that one as and put it in. Now we have to tell it a number of parameters: the handle to the dialog, which is the same as ours, the handle to the control, the column which we're adding, in this case column number 1, the string expression we want to put in, and in this case we'll put in, for example, first name. And it wants two further parameters: the width of the column in dialog units, and what we will do in here, we'll say, for example, 75, and the format it wants is basically left justified, right justified, or centered. Now, the values in the list view control are either going to be 0, 1, or 2. Now, what we want to do in this one is I want to do something we haven't done before. In the code at the top where the constants are actually set, these are the ones set by the PB Forms, we're going to set some of our own constants up here. Now, one thing that PowerBasic does quite powerfully, it lets you use the enum command, and the enum command is like a type block, and this lets you name your enumeration. Let's just call this LV for list view, and you can set basically properties of that little object, and we're going to call one left equals 0, and with the enumerated command it means that anyone you set after this, it will add 1 to the value. So basically lv.left will be 0, lv.right will be 1, and lv.center will be 2. So if we nip back to our dialog definition, in here we will put percentage, as it's an integer constant, lv.center. This will set the, lv.center. This will set the value of 2. Now if we run this code as is, just to see what it does, we will find it's put the first name column in quite happily. So what we want to do now is add our new columns, our extra ones. We'll put, say, 3 columns into this particular one. And this will be defining columns 2 and columns 3. We'll call the second column surname, and the third column telephone. We've set them all to be 75 wide, so this should quite happily display 3 columns: first name, surname and telephone. All good. So what we want to do now is we want to add in some data. When we actually do the search, at the moment all it does is populate the pie chart. I'd like when it does the search that it will pull back the records for everybody who has both eyes, with their name, surname and telephone number. So at the moment, when we look at the event handler of the form, down at the point where the button is actually pressed to trigger the search, down here we run the search. Now we're already passing in the handle of the form. What we want to pass in is the handle of the list view. So let's go back to our dialog. We will pick up the list view handle and we will go down to the piece of code that actually does the work of searching, and we'll add in another new parameter for the list view. So if we go to our search function and we'll add in the extra parameter and we'll call that list view, and in here we're actually going to be doing the work. So how do we do it? Now at the moment, as you remember from our last video, we read the entire file into an array. We find the column we're specifically looking for, in this case iColor. We will then sweep through the array, and if we do actually find a match for our search criteria, at the moment we just increment a counter, and the counter is then used a few lines of code further down to basically work out what slice of the pie that takes up. So at the point of actually picking up the fact that we've found a match, what we want to do is we want to put that record into our list view. Now since our count maintains a count of how many we've done, the first time it finds one it'll be 1, then 2, then 3, which is ideal for our list control. So in here we want to add in an insert. So it's the list view command again, and since we want to add in something, we want to insert a new row, which is basically list view insert item, which is down here. This adds a new row to the list view. So the dialog is HDLG. The item number for the list view is this. Now it wants to have in here which row we're actually talking about. Well, in this case, if we copy in this, the next two parameters are first of all a pointer to an image. Now we're not putting any images in, so we'll just leave this as a 0, and the actual string we want to put in. Now since we're going to be inserting several of these, we want to put in our first column. Now the first column we set up was the first name. So if we fold this round to the next line, and we want to put in the first name. Now, this construct here is already picking up the value of the one we're actually looking for. We're after something very similar, so we'll just steal that piece of code and we'll put it in there. And the column I'm after though is the column in the file. Now the first name is actually the first column, so we'll make that long column equal to 1. So what will this actually do? It will sweep through the array. Once it finds a match, it should insert a new row into the list view for the first name. So if we run that now, and we pick our eye color and do a search, it pulls back and inserts the first name in the first column, which is ideal. All 163 of them. So, can we pick up the surname and telephone as well? Well, having inserted a new row into the list view, we need to insert text into a new column. So, on the list view commands, there's a set text command, and this set text command is the one we're after. So the dialog we already have, the list view we will populate, the item number is the row number, which is still the same row we're talking about, but we're also telling it which column we're putting it into. Now we've already populated column number 1, so what we want to populate here is column number 2, and the string we want to put into that is exactly what we had here. And the column we're interested in for the surname is the second column. So we will pull in column number 2. And again, if we run that again, pick our eye color, and we're now picking up column number 2. So, the simple addition of adding column number 3 to the list. So for adding the third column, we just have to copy this piece of code. We are populating the third column, and the information we're after is the telephone field, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the fourth column in our data. So if we change this to 4, and if we run this now, and pick a eye color, the fourth column's in quite happily. Now, you may want to do a wee bit more on this, because at the moment nothing's selectable, so you can't actually see what you're actually doing. One of the other options you get when we create the list view is styles. So if we go to the dialog, down here where we set up the list view, we're going to put in a style command. Now if we have a look at list view, there is a list view set style, and there we go. Now there are a large number of options on what you can actually do in this style, but we'll just do the basics for the moment. I'll leave it as an exercise for your own information. Go through and try them and see what they actually all do. So if we put in our style command in there, again we want to populate the handle to the list view, and the number expression we want to put in here is what we want to set up. Now if we look at the help again, you'll find that each of these is a constant, and you can basically accumulate these constants together to give you the value you're after. And what we're after, and what I want to do, are just the two constants. So I'll just paste them in. And using the OR command, you can basically build up the value you're after. So in this case, I want grid lines and I want a full row select. So how does that actually change what we've got? Well, if we run it again, pick a right colour, and when we select a line, the whole line highlights, which is a bit more pleasing on the eye. So this is a very short introduction to what you can actually do with a list box. There is much more we can do with list boxes and much more with these searches, but we'll do that in a later video. Thank you for watching.